Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. We are here once again with legendary strength coach Dan John to talk all things fitness and kettlebells and whatever else and answer your questions. So, can already see some good stuff has come in the comment section. Drop your questions there. We will tend to them presently. Dan, how has your lifting and all that sort of stuff been this past week? Yeah.
It's been really, really great. I'm doing some different exercises now, like incline bench presses and stuff, and a few different things. We have. By the way, congratulations to our Wayne. It was nice that Canada had their election, and I think I would love to have a 4-week election versus a 4-decade election. Congratulations to Canada to remind us what democracy means, and I appreciate it. So congrats to all of you. Things are good, man. Body weight kind of, I put on a few pounds the last few days, and I'm looking over my. I could just be body weight, but over on the in the weight room, some numbers going up. Things are good.
Good.
Knocking out a lot of things. Life's good. How about yourself?
Good. Yeah. Busy as always, with all the kids' activities. They're all doing a million different things. We got soccer, volleyball, taekwondo, all over the place. But all good stuff. All good stuff. I had a good lift yesterday. I like you, Dan. I'm a fan of the. I haven't done barbell press in many years, but I love the kettlebell and dumbbell presses and the different angles and incline. They've always worked for me. They've always felt good.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of it. I think that that the dumbbell is a good complement to the kettlebell.
Yeah.
For those like you can do floor presses, and they're okay. I think we're being honest. They're okay. They're okay at best. They're just not the same as getting on a bench and using the dumbbells. If you're going to do the floor press, I would say get your hips bridged up and kind of turn it into a decline press. Get a little bit more range of motion there. It's good.
Yeah. That's great.
Go ahead.
When you're training, what right now are you focusing on? What, bodybuilding, hypertrophy, staying in shape? What do you want?
Trying to just keep dad glued into one piece, the Dan John knitting this thing. So what am I doing? I'm doing 3 days a week where I do good heavy strength and hypertrophy. I'm kind of in that range between 6 to 12 reps for a lot of stuff. So keeping the muscle on is important to me. Of the big lifts, the presses, doing the Dan John classic movement patterns type of deal. Have martial arts 2 to 3 times a week, so I get a lot of extra conditioning and mobility from that. Otherwise, now that the weather's getting nice, trying to just get outside and walk a lot more. I already took my walk I'm like, when the weather is really nasty, I'm a pretty big baby about getting outside. But as soon as it's nice, I'm golden. Me and the wife had the kids out, so looking forward to that. I got about 2 weeks here in Wisconsin to enjoy that. So,
I enjoy. I'm rigid about the 10,000 steps. I'm rigid about a couple things: sleep, the walk, the coffee. Those are the big lifting 2 to 3 days a week. But for me, I try to really own that 10,000 step rule. And folks, there's nothing magical about it. It's just a good thing.
It's a good, healthy practice. And to be clear, I'm good about the walking. It's just not outside. So like when it's nasty, Christy and I will just walk the track. We go to the Y. I'm one of those people. Right. Even though most of what I give people are at home workouts, I'm the opposite. I like to get out of the home because I'm home all day. For me, I like to get out of the house to work out. And the kids have stuff to do at the Y, so we'll walk the track there. But I much prefer to be outside for that sort of thing. Yeah,
and there is something wonderful. Like with my home gym, and mostly it's because people come over and train with me. It's not like I'm some monk or I got some special self-discipline. It's just in about an hour and change, Mike Brown's going to pull up and we're going to work out. Andrew's going to be here. Erica's going to be here. Eleni, hats off to everyone who's ever been here. I mean, my athletes will show up. It's easy for me to train when people are, here to work out with me. It's not like I'm some hero,
Yeah, no, for sure. It just having that environment. Same thing. I usually for years and years, I love to just working out in the morning or kind of earlier, right? Because I feel like my energy and attention is better. But recently I've been working out in the evenings just because the kids have so much YMCA stuff at the evening. But it's just that sort of environment, those kind of external commitments, like since it's just going to make me do it. Right. Yeah, exactly.
If you're at a class at the Y, it's a lot easier to get your workout in than if you're sitting there, you got a mountain of work and dirty dishes and laundry.
Totally. Yeah.
It's real. But if you're at the Y and someone else is going to clean up that floor, you get a chance. Yeah, I agree. Yep. So yeah, there was a question that came up the other day over a Reddit thread about, and basically it was, how do you get the work done? How do you build the habit? And it's funny because I believe in building systems, not habits. So, why do I floss my teeth so much? Because I have these dental sticks, literally everywhere.
Yeah, so does my wife. She's got them all in the car. She's in the car.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So it's, you're not going to have a habit of flossing your teeth. You're going to have a system for flossing your teeth. So if you have, I'd love to say I have this marvelous self-discipline. Sorry, folks. Hi, I'm Dan John, and I'm just better than everybody else. And I have such self-discipline. And if you want to look like me, you got to turn things around. You got to 180, It's
good, Dan. You've got a real future there.
Yeah,
motivational speaking.
Influencers, these 20-somethings. I woke up fat a couple of weeks ago. I weighed 113 pounds. And so I just really, I cut carbs back, and I'm walking. You're 22. Shut up. Of course you are.
Yeah.
After a couple of days of being with the grandkids and stuff, that's when I should talk about self-discipline. Because after about a week with my grandkids and doing all these extra things, dude, I'm barely able to put. And my workout is like, I'm going to the gym. I sit down on the incline bench and I read a magazine, and then I walk back in the house. It's not that bad, but it's,
there's something to be said here, and I want to say it carefully so not like enrage too many people. I remember there was some guy, I forget the context.
Yeah.
Some guy said to a friend of mine who was offering advice. This was years ago online. He said to me, he's like, I don't think you should ever be offering advice if you're under the age of 30 on anything. And my friend was like 26 at the time, and he was like super enraged by it. And I don't think that's obviously true across the board, but there's something to be said about certain life experiences. Like, look, I was offering fitness advice when I was like 20 and 21, and I would revise a fair amount of it. But dang, there was just a whole lot of stuff that I really did not know and did not appreciate. Right now that I'm not 21 or in my 20s anymore, and I've got 6 children, life is very different. There are certain things that you can really only learn through experience, right? That I think have made the sorts of advice that I give a lot better, a lot more practical, a lot more useful. So I don't want to go back and say that everything I said when I was younger than 25 was crap. It wasn't. A lot of it was good. Oh, yeah. And there's also a lot of people who are very old and very dumb, who've got a lot of experience. It's like, 40 years of bad experience is bad experience, and your advice still sucks. So there's another side to it, right?
Well,
but there's a careful appreciation of a point there that I'm trying to articulate that is not completely like disgustingly condescending, but is actually getting at something important. But it acknowledges something that deserves to be acknowledged. I know you know what I mean, Dan. Maybe you can articulate.
And I know. I was just thinking when I first coached, the answer to all questions was Olympic lifting.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, folks, gentle listeners, the answer to all your questions is to Olympic lift. But then you're going to raise your hand and say, I hurt my back doing this or that. Well, then, or I hurt my shoulder. Okay. Then I hurt my knee. Right. So obviously the answer still is Olympic lifting, but we have to adapt you to your life. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry. We're going to do some, we're going to do hip thrusts instead of cleans. Isn't it? Yeah. It's just everything to me, everything just, the longer I coach, the longer I just learn to reduce things down, Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. The art of reduction, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Keeping things simple but not simplistic. And it is an art, right?
Mm.
It's this dance of art and science and experience that a good coach is always trying to, you know,
Yeah.
dance the dance, right? And it's something
And
that you really get good at better at through experience. The more you do
well,
it, the more you live, right? Yeah.
this still shocks me to say this, but our collegiate conference track meet was last weekend. It was not even May. So I've had to adjust as a coach to getting my throwers ready to throw in snowstorms and rainstorms versus the nice weather of May and June, because the NC2A, for whatever reason, thinks that track is now, I don't know, a winter sport. Trying to throw that discus in a snowstorm is so safe.
Huh.
But I mean, 15, 20 years ago, I coached the throws differently than I do now because of rule changes. And then a few years from now, something else is going to change over there. I mean, like the American football coaches who deal with this NIL thing and the transfer portal, they
Yeah.
coach different than they did 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And you have to keep adapting as a coach.
Yeah, one thing that I've learned is, man, I was just so wasteful in my youth. Not that I was lazy. I worked very hard, but I did so much of stuff that wasn't super essential, wasn't super effective. Kind of this like, you know, brute productivity, right?
Yeah,
Just do.
force Trump.
Yeah, right. And like, man, I've learned that's not the best. It's certainly not sustainable, certainly not practical. And it goes back to your point of reduction. I've just learned how much of it can be reduced, how much of it can be simplified, just pulling weeds
Yeah,
out of the fitness garden, if you will. Don't need this, don't need that. In fact, this being here strangles out the other thing, right? And
yeah. Well, for
so
fat
like,
loss,
yeah,
I mean,
good principles and good practices were in there, but there was also just so much clutter, is what I was
yeah.
saying, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is calorie counting, calorie somehow being in the right place with your calories, be in the right place with your protein, probably walking, probably lifting. But honestly, if for fat loss, it's caloric restriction. For muscle gain, it's protein and lifting weights. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really all it is. Now the hand goes up. What do you mean by protein? Well, only pea powder. And make sure when you buy that you get the spelling right, folks. It's not when
Please
please,
get the
folks.
spelling right.
Yes. But
Always.
yeah, it you get down to you can ultimately simplify it down to those 2 points. Okay, it's caloric restriction and walking. We'll just say those two, and lifting weights and protein. Okay, we just said those two. Okay, we completely simplified it. Well, now we have to build on that again. So I think as coaching, you flow up and down that crazy ladder of like you said, you're pulling the weeds out, but then at the end, you've pulled everything out. Oh, so now it's time to plant. Okay, so
Yeah.
now it's up and down.
You pruned a little bit too much. And then,
Yeah,
you just like anything else, if you're not constantly vigilant, they sneak back in, right? The stuff sneaks back in. It's a constant process. Must always be clearing away the clutter
yeah,
and pulling the weeds
yeah,
and stuff like
yeah.
that. And this wasn't just for fitness. I mean, there's kind of two extremes, and as even Aristotle said, when it comes to the extremes, like it's better to be on one end of a vice than another. Like probably better to be like reckless than a coward if you're going for courage, right? So same thing here. Like I think probably better to be the person that has that brute productivity than somebody who just kind of lazy, doesn't really do much at all, right?
Right.
Because then that way you kind of figure out through time, hopefully, if you're paying attention, you're trying to hit the sweet spot. Okay, I'm doing 10 things, and I can see that, 3 to 5 of these are really worth doing. So let me start to emphasize that. But if you're only ever doing like nothing or one thing, it's kind of hard to
Yeah.
figure out what's actually going to get the job done efficiently. Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where being a chef is a better image of being a good coach than being a cook. There's nothing wrong with being a cook or anything, of course. But a chef, some coaches are bakers. They here's the formula. Here's what you got to do. You got to add the ingredient. At this, I live in altitude, so you have to change the rules of how you cook this souffle or whatever. Baking knows. Some people are cooks; they can follow a recipe, and some people are chefs; they can just invent. And I think good coaches have a hint of all of it. Because sometimes, man, all you have is a rusty Olympic bar, 235-pound plates and 225-pound plates. And I've been there, and that's how you.
That's a Chopped challenge in fitness. Yeah, remember that show, Chopped? I always like that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember the Food Network show where they'd give people just like some random ingredients, sometimes very few ingredients that they had to go and make a dish, right? Yeah. We should do some Chopped fitness challenges. You only have one rusty 12-kilogram kettlebell and I don't know, a log. Go do something.
Yeah,
with it, right?
The funny thing is, if you take it serious, you'll be better than almost everybody else. Yeah.
Awesome, good stuff. All right, let's head into some questions now. See some good stuff coming in. So let me scroll up and start grabbing these. Post your questions right here in the chat box, my dear friends, and we'll see how many we can tend to. Steven says, "Good morning, gentlemen. What are your thoughts on the various types of crawling and 4-point, axial and lateral, etc.? For cardio in a 30 for 30 workout, I find it does the job and I'm still able to do it the next day." All right, so we should clarify some things for people who might be new. What the different types of crawls might be helpful, and also the 30 for 30 workout. Again, I know this comes up a lot, Dan, but it's always good to refresh people on what the framework
My
is.
friend Gernot came up with the 30 for 30. It's 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for 30 minutes. And it sounds, and it is, it works out to being 29 minutes, 30 seconds, but why are we talking about that? But half the time in the workout you're resting, but it's go, go, go. I have found in my own experience, the best way to do the 30 for 30 is to go a push, rest 30 seconds, a pull, rest 30 seconds, a squat, rest 30 seconds, a hinge, rest 30 seconds, and a loaded carry, rest 30 seconds. And you swim through that. I guess it would be about 5 times. 6 times. Yeah. And I'm sorry if it's a little unclear in my own head. But the idea is, like, if you pick up, you could do, to try it out today, you could do push-ups, hang, goblet squat, hip thrust. That'd be great. March in place farmer walk. And you just do that when that second hand hits the 6, 12-6, when the second hand is 30 seconds, you put the weight down and you rest and you move, you mosey over to the next station and you just go. Wonderful workout. Crawling would be, I would think, a very good addition. I think, I don't know what you're going to balance it with on the other exercises. I think his name was Steven when I came up, but you just got to be ready to go on the crawl. So you can't be standing there having a drink of water and then, walk over to the mat, get yourself on the ground. I would say as long as you're ready to go, you're okay. So yes, on the crawling, folks, Tim Anderson, I would say he did a thing this last week with, figure 8 leopard crawls for like, I don't know, it was 10 minutes backwards or something like that.
I have not seen this. I'll check that out.
It was, of course, Tim, he's just amazing. But, for me, I wouldn't crawl only because of the facility I have. I guess we could do it on the lawn, but then, I put all that fertilizer on the lawn and stuff to make sure my clover grows. It's great. I just be ready to go when it's time to go. That's the only thing I would say.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Go forth and be excellent. All right. Mike has a question about the armor building formula. He's doing the armor building formula, but he feels like he might be missing a pull. Does the clean fulfill the role of a pull and the push, pull, hinge, squat, carry? He also thanks us for the Dracula reading recommendation. Great reading. All right. That was several weeks back, but glad you've gotten to that, Mike. I did finally read Frankenstein. I gotta say, I wasn't as much of a fan of Frankenstein. Well, it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't as good as Dracula.
And let me just tell you why. Because the movies have made Frankenstein. You're expecting something else, aren't you?
Well, here's my assessment. So, without again sounding very rude, especially about something that I've never accomplished myself. My understanding is Frankenstein, the author was like 19 when she wrote it,
Yes,
right?
she was. It was a contest.
Yeah.
Who could write?
So very, very impressive for that age. But at the same time, it did seem like it was written by somebody who was still a novice at the craft, an extremely good novice. Whereas Dracula, Stoker was clearly very mature in his craft at the time, and I think those made a difference in just the quality level of the storytelling and the general atmosphere and the character development. So, I'm not saying Frankenstein was bad. It's just I just thought Dracula was a much more overall gripping read. Yeah, the movies. Which movies? So I never saw a movie of either of those before. And I just went and grabbed a random Frankenstein movie. I grabbed the one from the 90s with Robert De Niro. Have you ever seen this? Robert De Niro played Frankenstein at one point. It was a really strange experience. I can't say I recommend it, but like if you see it for free on Amazon Prime, I almost have to insist that you watch it. Yeah.
So most of the I mean, will you say probably 3/4 of the book are not in the movies? The whole opening with the ice flows and the torturedness of our friend the creature, right?
Yes.
Is he called the creature in the book?
What do they call him? Yeah, did they even give him a name?
Yeah.
It sounded like
he
calls them all sorts of vile names throughout the book, right? The demon, the creature, whatever he calls it, right? Yeah,
much different. Yeah,
it's a slim read. It's a classic. I definitely recommend it. All I'm saying is that I read Dracula first, and I was excited to continue on this sort of gothic horror thing, and I just felt like Frankenstein wasn't quite there in terms of its grippiness. So, anyways.
All right.
Back to, and then you can go watch that De Niro be Frankenstein's monster and be oddly, entertained, I guess. But back to the question about the lifting and armor building formula.
Oh, I forgot about it. What was the question?
He wants to know about the pull in there and wonders if the clean can fit that role.
I think the pull gets covered in the clean. I think the lats. I mean, I think what's happening. Is it Mike? Yeah, Mike. I think one of the things that's happened, and because of the influence of bodybuilding, is that a lot of us break muscles in like the lats into a very specific small band. The lats are by far the largest muscle in the body. I understand. I haven't dissected anybody lately. The city here of Murray doesn't allow me to do it anymore, even though I would. But they're massive, and so much of it gets taken care of through your anaconda muscle work. But if you want to add a pull, add a pull. I mean, when you go over and you see people over, I really enjoy the discussions over at Reddit, and anybody who adds a pull very often will come back later and say, "Yeah, I didn't really need it." But I always tell people to do a workout as written. Since kettlebells came up, the two things I always say, you don't get any chest work and you don't get any pull work. And my thought is that you can just tell that bodybuilding is always it's the 600-pound gorilla in weightlifting since 1975.
Yeah.
Everything has to be run through the bodybuilding mentality. I mean, if you want great lats, snatch 300 and clean 400, you'll have great lats. And then someone will say, well, what about pull-ups? And you'll be like, well, that's fine too. But look at when I was really heavy Olympic with you, my lats were like, they felt like blankets on top of me. Oh God, listen to that. Okay, I'll stop there. But yeah, I think it's in the clean, but your mileage may vary.
All right. Tom has a question about bread pudding. I recently confessed to my email followers, Dan, that I have a severe weakness for bread pudding, and he wants to know if he might have a similar condition. For me, it's in the eyes. If I smell it, you can see the eyes kind of just. I lose all control. There's just nothing. You just have to keep me away from it all the time. I mean, just the warm bread pudding with the ice cream. It hurts your teeth, right? Because it's like the hot bread pudding and the cold ice cream, but it's worth it. Do you have you have something like that, you just need to be absolutely like not in any sort of proximity to this.
Everybody in my life knows I have a weakness for chocolate pudding.
Ooh,
in fact, I even have a pudding song. It is not something I'm proud of, but pudding is my weakness. I like it. Man, I used to make that. Yeah, that was just something. And I got to tell you another thing. I'm only good for like a spoonful of it, but frozen concentrated orange juice.
Ooh.
A spoonful of that is I could. One time, just to see if I really would want it, I tried to eat a whole can of it. Didn't work out at all. In fact, I probably had a diabetic fit. But yeah.
Well, my favorite pudding, not to hijack the point, is it's actually rice pudding. Dan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it says part of it's nostalgia. My grandfather used to eat a bunch of rice pudding, and there was a little place we'd go that had this homemade rice pudding. It was amazing. Actually, was severely disappointed in my kids because my wife advocated for tapioca pudding, and I thought surely my kids aren't savages, and if we do a blind taste test, they'll come out for the rice pudding. And unanimously they went for the tapioca. So
it's this next generation.
Yeah, they really kids will disappoint you. They will let you down. So,
just you hear a story like that, and you just I don't know what to tell you, my friend.
Yeah, it's dark days, Dad. They put a little cinnamon on the rice pudding.
I know.
All right, moving on. All right, Anthony says, well, good news, I guess, that Olympic lifting is the answer for everything. He just has a new barbell, so he's saved. There's nothing else to worry about.
It is funny. I was just thinking about it to make sure do I even believe what I just said? And it's funny because in this in my matrix that I always use, my little training matrix, on the far right is the Olympic lifts, and everything else is a bit of not regression in a negative way, but if you can't do this, you do this. You can't do this, you do this. But of course, I believe in. I think to be competent, as for what I do, you have to know the Olympic lifts, the power lifts, the kettlebells, the calisthenics, the bodybuilding exercises, the machine family, all the crazy crap you see online. Nothing worse. There's a few people online, I swear, Patrick, every day they wake up and go, how many things can I put together to look crazier or dumber? Just the silliness. And then I'll get a question about it, and versus like I think hill sprints are great. Well, what do you think about hill sprints on a pogo stick? Well, I guess that's fine. There's always that more thing.
Yeah, you do, man.
My matrix only has 37 exercises, but I feel that if you master, and that includes push-up position, planks, goblet squats, overhead squats, farmer walks. If you know how to do those 37 things, I just feel like you're fine. You've got it, And the team that's leaping off buildings and hitting Bosu balls and doing all that other nonsense, that's great. But I don't know if you're really gonna be able to knock my guys down as well. I don't know.
Yeah. Good. All right. Here's a question I'm sure will interest a lot of people. It relates to kettlebells and bodybuilding. Jerry wants to know, how do you fit kettlebell training into a 4-day-a-week upper and lower split bodybuilding training program and still recover? It's a secret. He's training Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday. Off days are Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. Thank you in advance.
Why don't you answer it?
Okay, well, let's start with principles. I think that's always a good place to begin. Principles are that from which everything else flows, right? So when it comes to bodybuilding, I think we're aiming for hypertrophy and muscle growth. And generally, it's well known that we need to hit a certain amount of volume for that to happen. And it's somewhere around like 10-ish sets per major muscle group or movement pattern per week. So think, okay, and this is you can get it with less, but I think it's pretty clear that this is kind of an ideal starting target. If you're like very well trained, you might need a bit more, but this is kind of where you want to start. And then if you do some maths and you realize you got to do a certain number of exercises and get all those reps in, you're probably going to want 3 to 4 days per week, 3 to 4 days per week to get all that in. And I think you can make that work with a traditional upper lower split if you want. For myself, because I'm kind of training in this way right now, I just kind of do mixed routines, 3 days per week. And then you just kind of pick your lifts and divvy it up. I mean, so what are some good kettlebell exercises for bodybuilding? There's a few, right? For muscle, we like the double clean and press, and we like the front squat. I like the heavy single arm row. I think you're going to get probably more mileage out of that than the double bent over row, just from a mechanical standpoint, especially when you can really brace and move a lot more weight and really focus on the rowing more than the hinge. I think you're limited in vertical pulling, so you might want to think about some sort of pull up variation or a lat pull down variation. Maybe supplement kettlebells there a little bit if you feel like you need a vertical pull. For the hinge, I mean, kettlebell swings and stuff are great; they're explosive, but you might want to consider a barbell or deadlift or something like that if you're not just training with kettlebells. And then some carries, and then, something for the abs, the leg lifts, the ab wheel, stuff like that is, I think, those are useful. So there's a mix of ingredients for you. And then just, set your sets and reps. So you might want to just anywhere between 6 to 12, I think, is a good range. You can build muscle with like more. You can go 15 plus reps to build muscle, but like, why would you want to do that? Right? Like the quicker I could get to like the failure point, like,
that's good.
Like the better. Like, why do I want to push all the way through 15 reps with that intensity? That just is so miserable. So like people will push back. Like, well, you could do it with 15 reps. Yeah, you can. But why on earth would you want to, right? There's a big difference there. Like, cause the idea here is another principle. If you want to hit the muscly stuff, you need to be working close to failure, like within 2 reps of at least technical failure. So these got to be hard sets. And if they're really hard sets, like I'd rather it be done at 8, even if I'm using more rep, than like 17, right? It's just like, for me, there's a higher misery index there and being economical. All right. So then you mix all that stuff together and you spread it out throughout the week, how you want. And that's how I would go about it. I mean, that's not like super specific, but I think the stuff is there to start putting it together. So Dan, yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. I wrote a book called The Armor Building Formula, and I stand by that.
Great.
If it's kettlebells and you want lean body mass, you want basic hypertrophy, there you go. I just spent the last 14 15 years, longer, I guess, actually. I'm coming out. I just posted some new stuff. I sent it in my inner circle, but I went back and I shared the original, I called the running back complex, with them. And I just thinking out loud, I mean, if you're going to do kettlebells, from my experience, the Armor Building Formula, available at danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore. And I'm sure you would have some programs too. Eat Your Paleo Workout for Dummies book. I did your 180 days. Mother jeepers. 180. Folks, I did his workout for 180 days, and then I reviewed it versus just reading it and reviewing it.
Amazing.
But that's what I stand by the ABF because it's proven to work. It's kettlebell. It's a kettlebell bodybuilding program, which is,
there you go.
If you're going to try to do Nautilus training with kettlebells, you're going to try to do kettlebell training with machines. Sometimes, we try as hard as we can. I think this and no critique to the question at all, but sometimes we've got round hole square peg issues when we're moving. A bodybuilding program based on Olympic lifting can work, but it's probably not going to get you to Mr. Olympia. A bodybuilding program for Olympic lifting, won't work. But you might be the best looking guy on the platform, but you're not going to throw any weights over your head. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm,
It's like when people ask me, at Highland Games, what do I bench? That's when I realize I'm going to smoke this person, because
yeah, you're done, son. You're
you're
done.
donezo.
You're
You're out of
done. Good. All right. Here's a question from our story for you, Dan. He says, I got all 50 reps in one set on Mass Made Simple on workout 8. Should I jump up a weight class for the rest of the program? Okay. A lot of stuff there that people may be familiar with.
Wow.
Mass Made Simple, workout 8. What's being
Yeah.
talked about here?
Halfway through, the biggest question I'd ask you, and I'm not trying to be a rear end asking, but how deep were these squats? I don't say ass to grass, but I've had people send me their videos. Look, I did the 50 reps with 185 or 205, 225, and their quarter squats are 8 squats. So that would be the first question I have. If you could just follow up real quick in real time here. But if you went deep, so the top of your thigh was at least parallel, that would still be a little shallow for me with the way I train, but don't worry about it. If you did get parallel upper thigh and you push things through, you know what? I would just say this: stick with the program. Just stick with you've got an easy day coming up, number 10. Maybe you can, time yourself and see how fast you can get the 50 in. I think when I get the 50s, and I gotta say, it feels like I could be wrong, but my mind is saying 3 to 4 minutes at least to get the 50 in. Probably longer, probably 5. The first 30 reps take me about 2 minutes. The last 20 take me about 5 minutes, it seems. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what it was. So I think my advice was check your depth first. And then number 2, just stick with the program this time through. Okay.
Yeah. Well, sounds like our friend iChef is echoing that from his experience. Stick to the plan. And when he did Mass Made Simple, he gained 30 pounds. Woo, 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 woo. And then 3 years later, he got his fat down to pre-Mass Made Simple levels. So that's a little long-term body recomposition, but hey.
But that's what
that's the game sometimes, right? Yeah.
And those numbers, those numbers are a lot more logical. Now, when you said that you put on a lot of body fat with Mass Made Simple, that's why usually, Pat, I have a program. It's called Mass Made Simple. It's very good, but it's really truly designed to get someone. It's for American football. It's for rugby. It's for track it's for throwers in track and field. Okay, but it's also for somebody who wants to put that lean body mass you put on with those high rep squats, the complexes, and the bench. That lean body mass sticks the rest of your life. It's one of those things where if I can get you to lift it. So if I'm going to work with two 40-year-old men, one is an absolute newbie in the weight room, never lifted at all. But the other guy played high school football and then in college did some bodybuilding. The 40-year-old who did the bodybuilding and high school football is going to have these weird better gains in the beginning. Now, some people say it's muscle memory. I believe in muscle memory. I do think it exists. By the way, it's one of those things. It's hard to prove, but the research isn't. There's nothing new about the research. It comes from this great book by Hedinger, The Physiology of Strength. This is from the 1940s and 50s. So even though you might have put some body fat on, the idea is that the muscle mass is there too. So this is something that's been lost, Patrick, because the anabolic steroids is. But when I was young, you went on a mass building program, acknowledging you were going to add some body fat to it. But the idea was building muscle mass is really hard, really hard. Losing body fat is relatively easier. Now, I got to be careful because, all the little asterisks and are at the bottom of my page right here. But that is a more, I don't mind the idea of 8 weeks, 12 weeks, build up some mass and then spend time whittling off the fat over time after that.
I like that. I like that. That's good. And, you know, there's good sense to that, because for most people, most of the time, you're not trying to take vitamin S, right? I mean, the cyclical approach is the best, most practical, sustainable way to go. You say, all right, I'm going to spend some time putting on muscle mass.
Yeah.
I may gain a little fat. You can hedge against it. You don't have to be a complete hog, but the idea is I'm okay if I put on a little extra loving. That's all right. That's sometimes a cost of doing business. I'll try to minimize it, you know, but if you don't want to be like super aggressive, then once I'm happy with where I'm at with my muscle, then I'm just going to switch focus. I'll try to lose fat while minimizing muscle loss. And over time, it's a cyclical approach that will help you to recompose into the specimen you've always wanted to be, right? If you try to do everything at once, you're just going to go in circles, right? Because the moment you see that you're gaining a little extra loving, you're going to start cutting down and losing your muscle and strength gain. You'll just chase your tail. So you have to just understand that you can't like accomplish all things profoundly at once. You have to pick a focus and just kind of put the rest into maintenance mode. Even be okay if it, you know, you lose a little bit in that area, and understand that this is just a trade-off, a cost of doing business. I think that needs to be emphasized quite a bit, because people just freak out. You know, they freak out if they start gaining a little bit of fat and then they mess up the plan, or they freak out if they start losing a bit of muscle and then they mess up the plan, right? Got to learn to have the right expectations so you don't freak out and abandon the program every time something like that starts to happen. Because that's just, again, you know, chemical enhancements aside, that's just how it works for people, right?
And, you know, it's interesting because he followed up here. And he tells us he went at 6'4", he weighed 270. So imagine, you know, if I had 5 17-year-old high school offensive linemen at 6'4", 270, who, you know, and that's how we spent July and early August, was getting up to 270 as my offensive lineman. And then I had a kid, I worked with a kid years ago who's about 5'6", 5'7", a sprint champion, who most of his lifting was power snatch and overhead squat. Well, that's my phone. You know, and he ran for his last 5 high school football games. He ran for 200 yards each game. Well, guess what? If I've got Chef the Impossible and 4 other guys at 270, and I got him in the backfield, you know, who did power snatch and overhead squat to train, we're going to win a lot of games. It's going to be real late in the game. We're going to be destroying the opposition. When they're 57, I don't want them weighing 270 anymore.
Yeah.
Or 67. Well, they're not going to make it, but yeah. So that's that. So just remember, sometimes, folks, and this is the hardest thing about having a career like I have, is I'll go online and I would much rather be, you know, like Mark Ripito on Starting Strength, you know, bench, squat, deadlift. Okay. Tommy Kono, you know, clean and press, snatch, and clean and jerk. I'd love to be that way. Or, you know, some of the people over in the kettlebell world, you know, you must do, you know, 2 exercises is 2, you know, if you should only do 2 exercises per workout. I'd love to be more that way, but that's just not the populations I work with. You know, one size fits all works really well if that's all you do. You know, I mean, I remember Paul Lysingo, and he had that great gym with just kettlebells. And I tell you, if you're at just kettlebell gym, you can do really well, but you're not going to have a lot of discus throwers in there. You're not going to have a lot.
Right.
You know, and so that's fine. You know, that's fine.
Yeah. So again, as long as you have the right expectations, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't eat at vegan restaurants. It's not that I'm anti anybody. I just, when someone says, you know, or remember that when the raw food thing was out for a while.
Yes.
And no, you know, there were restaurants, not so much here in the West, but where they just had uncooked food. And it's just like, well, I'm not going to spend $200 on an uncooked meal. On
a piece of raw liver. Speaking of, how's our old friend, the Liver King, doing these days? Has anybody kept up with him at all? Last I saw, man, I felt bad for the guy. I genuinely felt, despite all the very shady stuff he did, it was clear that this guy is just not well at all. So yeah, I don't know.
but don't forget, all of his followers believe it all. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Real shame. Real shame. All right. Coco Loco has a question. Hey, aside from the obvious ones like hanging, he puts sings there. I don't think that's a typo. He wants to know about movement snacks. So you're at the office, what sort of little exercises can you do throughout the day to get those movement snacks in aside from hanging? Yeah, hanging's great. If you got a little bar, just hang, throughout the day. Big fans of that. What else we got, Dan? What else can you snack on movement wise?
I would bring in I'd bring in my Olympic bar, put it on the other side of my desk. No, one of the
3 wheels on each side. Yeah, just for your snack. Yeah, right.
Yeah. One of the things that actually works well, obviously, your calisthenic family, let's just go through it. Your push-up, your Superman, your Cobra, your Cobra family.
Don't forget the stretches too. The hip flexor stretch is money for me. I'm about to do a little snack right now and just get this.
Yeah, hip thrusts, clamshells, with the glute loop. Those are all, you could do just, doorknob squats. So
T-spine rotations, love those. Yep.
The calisthenic family is good. You could, in fact, I've had people tell me they prep for the kettlebell cert by having a single kettlebell in the room with a tie on, and just doing some movements. But there's some, my friend Alex up in Seattle, he keeps a barbell in his office, and a kettlebell, and he does Maffetone slow strength stuff. Every hour on the hour, you do a set of 8 in an exercise. Romanian deadlift, overhead squat. And we're talking some interesting exercises here. So you can do it. The biggest issue is, you got to have to read the room a little bit,
Yeah, not only that, but you also do want to be a little bit careful about, if you're at the desk for an hour, hunched over, tightened up, then going into 100 snatches with the 24. Yeah, you're probably not going to feel great there. So yeah, sometimes people they're very ambitious with their movement snacks. You might want to do a little bit of warm up before just hopping into, your 2-rep max deadlift is your movement snack there.
And if you can get Irving Dardick's Quantum Fitness book, he's got a whole bunch of nice little easy to, not easy, but I like Superman's hip thrusts and things like that it could be done easily without a lot of equipment, a lot of fanfare. Phil Maffetone's slow strength, where you lift every hour on the hour, a set of 8. You could do something like that, but really I think you have to, you're just going to have to really, and I mean it when I say read the room. Yeah.
Jordan says, always remember Oreos are vegan. Yes. I love Oreos. I love the golden ones. Oh, the golden Oreos. Those are so good. You ever have those ones, the vanilla ones?
No,
so
I think I've mentioned this before about a blessing that I have. I don't have a sweet tooth at all. So
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You're more of a salty, fatty kind of guy, right? Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's high praise.
Yeah.
Dan John, salty, fatty.
Mm-hmm.
It's
so between the Oreos and the Lay's potato chips, what's more?
I would probably Fritos. Yeah,
the Fritos. That's what's going to be more appealing to you, sure. Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. What was the one they used to put on your fingers? Kringles. What was that? Remember those ones?
Oh yeah. Oh, and French horns was another one.
It was that one. Yeah. Man, it's been a minute since I've. Do they still make those? Are those even still around?
Chef the Impossible adds bean and cheese burritos. If you're in my life, Chef, if you see me with the bean and cheese burrito, the rule is you take my car keys from me.
Yeah.
Bean and cheese burritos are my intoxication eating protocol.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I'm reading a question here. Let me just pull it up.
IEP. Oh, yeah. I like that. Right. Someone write that down. The intoxication eating protocol, IEP. Okay, go ahead.
Take a few more questions here. Sure. iChef is back. He says, I understand and use the Frankenstein's monster training so much more now. People who bodybuild individual parts and keep asking me for exercises to help with their boxing and kickboxing. It continues. They need to stop their current approach and learn how to move better and practice the discipline of the art as opposed to trying to solve it in the weight room. They need their body to be one piece. Okay. That's more of a comment than a question, but Dan?
Well, like people who, when they look at my discus thrower, tell them to do, we should do incline flies. And I'm always like, dude, you are so stuck in a concept that's, you don't throw the discus like this.
Yeah. I mean, this comes back to specificity.
Yeah.
And the idea that, this carryover or stuff like that, it's there, but it's often a lot more restricted and in many ways hugely exaggerated.
I mean, if you want to get punched, would you rather get punched by an elite level shot putter or an elite level power lifter who benches 700-800 pounds with all the wrist wraps, elbow wraps, bench gear, or a bodybuilder who does chest flies, those cable crossovers? Well, in my experience, the one person you don't want to fight is a shot putter, because that's going to hurt a hell of a lot more than you think because of the use of the legs and the trunk and the whole body singing together. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Guy doing cable crossovers might look good, but probably not going to hurt you.
Yeah, I think this comes back to our general philosophy of you lift weights and be strong for general physical preparedness. When it comes to your sport, nothing's going to replace the practice of that sport, and then kind of using the weight room just to fill gaps where you can. And it's funny because I always come back to music because I let us know, but you'll see this in the music world. So that people, oh, you want to strengthen your hands on guitar? Use the grippers, and they're so useless. I mean, they're just. If you want to get stronger on guitar, you have to play the guitar, right? And a lot of it isn't even about getting stronger. It's actually learning to move with less tension and stuff like that. So you see these gimmicks even in areas that like this idea of like, well, this looks like this, so it must be good for that. But it's not. It's actually could be detrimental in many respects.
Yeah. That's yeah. And I'm glad you raised the issue, gentle listener, because that shows up all the time. So again, getting back to the problem I have answering questions online, people come into my YouTube, they'll look at one effing question and they'll say kettlebells are useless. This is like, then the next question was Olympic lifting. The next question was American football. I got to tell you from the heart, I mean, when I look at these, especially on most people, you would have a horrific track and field team if you train like what most influencers tell you to do. Having said that, you would have a terrible wrestling program and a terrible American football and rugby program training like that. To do sports, you've got to change things. To look good on the beach, caloric restriction, go for a walk, do, get the biggest damn shoulders you can, just do lots and lots of overhead pressing, do the armor building formula, and you'll look good on the beach. But looking good on the beach and be able to knock someone on their ass in a football game are radically different toolkits.
Yep. Yeah. That is absolutely good and right. Okay, let's see. Let's squeeze just one more in here. This has been a very fun one. Let's take this here. Mike wants to know, what are your thoughts on adjustable kettlebells? I know Dan said he's not a fan when it comes to the quick change ones, but if we've seen the lower change competition style ones. My quick answer to this, and even though it was directed at you, is no, I have not seen those. And generally, I'm not a fan of the adjustable kettlebells either, but maybe they've gotten a lot better. I don't know. I don't use them. Dan, any current thoughts?
I don't like them.
The end.
I have 36 kettlebells. Do I really need another damn kettlebell? In fact, I'm going to end up with more. I got a whole new wave of kettlebells being donated. Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right, Dan, before we say goodbye, what do you got coming this week? What are you working on?
Well, it's a strange week. My javelin thrower, she'll have 3 track meets in about 6 days because of the way the schedule rolled out. She's competing tomorrow, and I'm just like, this season has just been crazy. I'm doing my best to support her. She's a great human. I can't really talk about, but I have an issue with another one of my athletes that, it's just, life is tough, folks, and show some grace to one another. Yeah, quiet week. Mostly getting. I'm doing a lot of yard work. I put in a new big pot yesterday, a new beautiful pot in front of my house. I put in a red rock bench in the front of my house. It really, really looks good. The flowers are coming in. My bee and butterfly friendly bushes are thriving. So that makes me happy. I am writing a weekly thing. I've been writing these series of rather thick article bloggy things. The idea is to put them up on Dan John University. I sent them out to my inner circle people, and I've got no feedback.
Yikes.
And but I'm working on one. I got asked to tell us what to do after age 55, and so today I'll be writing what to do after age 55.
Cool. Very cool.
And honestly, I'm not sure. I do know this. Can I, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
I wish I'd listened to there's a great strength coach online, and the guy is a genius. He says after 55, you should finally focus on bodybuilding, joint mobility, and walking.
I've heard this.
And this guy's great, but I wouldn't listen to him. And in the last few months, I started to do that, and I feel fabulous. His name is Dan something or other. Like his last, I don't know if he has a last.
John Dan, is that it?
Guy.
John Dan.
Yeah, something like that.
John Dan. Yeah.
And I tell you, I started training like I always tell people to train. And I got to tell you, I mean, body weight's down. I keep thinking I'll be 207 one morning. I just keep bouncing around it, but I feel good. My armacondas are,
save that for the paid subscribers. Dan, can't give away too much.
There are a lot of, can you hear the fainting? No, things are good. Things are really good.
Good.
My Daisy, my 3-week-old granddaughter, she had a milk smile the other day. Mom filmed it. So for those of you who don't know what a milk smile is, when a baby drinks milk, they'll close their eyes like this, and then they'll go.
Yep, milk drunk. We've seen
milk
drunk.
Milk drunk.
Yeah. They get milk drunk. Awesome. Hey, thank you, Dan, as always. Thank you, everybody, for the great questions, and we'll see you guys all next week. Like, share, comment, and all that good stuff.
Next week I'll probably I'll do it on the road. So
all right, well, we'll make it work if we can.
My elementary school reunion is next week, so I'm very excited.
Awesome. All right, Dan, well, safe travels, and we'll talk to you guys